Ms. Patel couldn't ignore the tears anymore. Every day after lunch, the same quiet girl would sit at her desk, silently crying when she thought no one was looking. Why was Wren so sad? Why wouldn't she talk to anyone? And why did she seem terrified? Of the school principal? Something wasn't right, and Ms. Patel was determined to find out what was really happening. But she never expected that looking inside a student's desk would uncover secrets so dangerous that powerful people would do anything to keep them hidden. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is notice when someone needs help. Ms. Linnea Patel noticed it again today, the silent tears rolling down Wren Abernathy's cheeks. It was the third time this week, always after lunch, always when the 10-year-old thought no one was looking. Linnea pretended to organize papers at her desk, while keeping an eye on the small girl with the dark auburn hair. Wren sat perfectly, still, her pencil moving steadily across her math worksheet despite the tears that occasionally splashed onto the paper. Unlike most fourth graders who sobbed loudly when upset, Wren cried with a quiet dignity that broke Linnea's heart. "All right, everyone," Linnea called to her class. "Time for silent reading. Please take out your books." 24 children rustled through their desks and backpacks. Linnea used the activity as cover to approach Wren's desk. "Wren," she said softly, crouching down beside the girl. "Is everything okay?" The transformation was immediate. Wren's small hand darted up to wipe away the wetness on her freckled cheeks. Her posture straightened, and a tight smile appeared on her face, like a mask being pulled over her true feelings. "I'm fine, Ms. Patel," Wren whispered, her voice steady despite the redness around her eyes. "Just thinking about a sad book I read." Linnea didn't believe it for a second. She'd been teaching long enough to recognize when a child was hiding something, but she also knew that forcing confidence rarely worked. "Well, if you ever want to talk about that book, or anything else, my door is always open." Wren nodded, politely, her eyes already dropping back to her desk. The invisible wall between them remained firmly in place. Linnea sighed and returned to the front of the classroom. For 3 weeks since Wren had transferred to Oak Ridge Elementary, the pattern had been the same: perfect schoolwork, polite responses, and those silent, secret tears. During reading time, Linnea observed Wren from across the room. Unlike the other children who sprawled comfortably with their books, Wren sat with perfect posture, her shoulders tight, as if preparing to flee at any moment. She never spoke unless spoken to, never raised her hand despite clearly knowing the answers, and spent recess alone beneath the big oak tree, writing in what appeared to be a journal. Something was wrong in Wren Abernathy's world, and nobody seemed to notice except Linnea. As the afternoon progressed, Linnea taught science and then art, where the children painted autumn leaves. Even here, Wren's work stood out, her painting technically perfect, but somehow lacking the messy joy the other children expressed. When Melody offered to share her special gold paint, Wren had looked surprised, as if kindness was an unfamiliar language. The dismissal bell rang at 3 o'clock, as the children packed up with the usual chaos of crumpled papers and dropped. "Pencils!" Linnea noticed Wren moving with deliberate care. The girl glanced nervously toward the classroom door several times, then quickly pulled papers from her desk and stuffed them deep inside her backpack. "Wren," Linnea called, "could you help me clean the paintbrushes before you go?" It was an excuse to keep her a moment longer, to perhaps find a crack in that careful facade. "My aunt doesn't like to wait," Wren said, her voice so quiet Linnea had to lean closer to hear. "It will only take a minute," Linnea promised. Reluctantly, Wren nodded, her small hands trembling slightly as she gathered paintbrushes. Together they stood at the sink, the gentle splash of water the only sound between them. "Wren, I want you to know that school should feel safe," Linnea said carefully. All feelings are okay here, even sad ones. For just a moment, Wren's guard dropped. Her eyes, a striking amber color, met Linnea's with such raw pain that the teacher felt her breath catch. "Ms. Patel, Wren began. The classroom door swung open with a bang. Wren flinched as if she'd been struck. "Wren, let's go!" A sharp voice called from the doorway. A tall woman with hair the same auburn shade as Wren's stood with her arms crossed. "Aunt Dolores," Linnea recalled from the enrollment paperwork. The resemblance between them was strong, but where Wren's features were soft, the aunt's were hard and angular. "Coming, Aunt Dolores," Wren called, her voice changing completely. Higher, brighter, a perfect performance of a happy child. "Thank you for your help, Wren," Linnea said, trying to recapture the moment of connection. "Remember what I said." Wren nodded but wouldn't meet her eyes again. She grabbed her backpack and hurried to her aunt's side. As they left, Linnea noticed how Wren's shoulders hunched forward, how she made herself even smaller beside the taller woman. The classroom fell silent. Linnea walked slowly between the desks, straightening chairs left askew by hasty departures. When she reached Wren's desk, she paused. Something caught her eye. The corner of a paper sticking out from the inside edge. Linnea knew she shouldn't pry. Student desks were private spaces. And yet, the memory of her own childhood rose like a ghost. Of hurts hidden and adults who never asked the right questions. Of wishes that someone would notice. Someone would care enough to look deeper. Linnea glanced at the empty doorway, then back at Wren's desk. Tomorrow, she decided. Tomorrow she would find a way to reach the girl. She couldn't have known then how. That decision would change both their lives forever. 3 weeks earlier, Linnea had been preparing her classroom for a typical Monday when Principal Holloway knocked on her door. His tall figure filled the doorframe as he gestured to a small girl partially hidden behind him. "Ms. Patel, this is our new student, Wren Abernathy," he said, with an unusual warmth in his voice. Linnea rarely saw the principal personally escort new students. "She'll be joining your class starting today." Linnea set down her marker and approached with a welcoming smile. "Hello, Wren. We're so happy to have you with us." The girl didn't respond. She kept her eyes fixed on her worn sneakers, fingers working nervously at the frayed edges of her sweater sleeves. A woman stepped forward, placing firm hands on Wren's shoulders. "I'm Dolores Abernathy, Wren's aunt. She's living with me and my husband now." Linnea offered her hand. "It's nice to meet you, Ms. Abernathy." The woman's handshake was brief and cool. "Wren's mother is away for treatment," she said abruptly. "We don't discuss it. Wren is smart and well-behaved, but she's overly sensitive. Don't encourage it." Principal Holloway nodded along as if this was perfectly reasonable. "Ms. Abernathy has requested that we keep Wren's family situation private. I've assured her that Oak Ridge Elementary respects family boundaries." Something in his tone made Linnea pause. In her 6 years teaching at Oak Ridge, Principal Holloway had never shown such personal interest in a new student's enrollment. "Of course," Linnea replied carefully. "Wren's privacy will be respected, but I'm always available if there's anything you think would help me better support her in class." The aunt's mouth tightened. "She doesn't need special treatment, just a normal education." After they completed the paperwork in awkward silence, Principal Holloway led the aunt away for a private tour of the school facilities. Linnea found this odd. Tours were typically her responsibility as the classroom teacher. Left alone with her new student, Linnea crouched down to Wren's level. "Would you like to see where you'll sit?" Wren nodded almost imperceptibly, finally looking up. Linnea was struck by the girl's amber eyes, beautiful but guarded, like those of someone much older than 10. I put you next to Melody. She loves art and always has the best colored pencils, Linnea explained as they walked to an empty desk. And across from you is Zeke. He's our class expert on dinosaurs and really friendly. For just a moment, Linnea thought she saw a flicker of interest in Ren's eyes. Do you like dinosaurs, Ren? The girl glanced toward the door, as if checking whether her aunt might return before whispering, I read a book about them once. The Brachiosaurus was my favorite. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The rest of that first day had established the pattern that would continue for weeks. Ren completed all assignments perfectly. She spoke only when directly addressed. At recess, she sat alone against the wall, watching other children play with a longing she seemed to think no one noticed. Zeke had tried to include her, approaching with his collection of dinosaur cards. Want to see my Brachiosaurus? It's super rare. Ren had looked genuinely tempted, but then spotted Principal Holloway watching from the school entrance. She declined politely and returned to her solitude. Later that day, while helping Ren find the restroom, Linnea had noticed bruise-like marks circling the girl's thin wrists. When asked about them, Ren had tugged her sleeves down quickly. I fell off my bike, she'd mumbled unconvincingly. Linnea had built her teaching career on a simple philosophy. Children needed to feel safe before they could learn. In her colorful classroom, rules were clear, but kindness was paramount. She paid special attention to the quiet ones, the children who, like she had once been, carried invisible burdens. Something about Ren pulled at her heart from that very first day. Perhaps it was the careful way the girl moved, as if trying not to take up space. Or maybe it was how her eyes tracked every adult in the room, always aware of where everyone stood. That afternoon, Linnea had approached Thaddeus, the unofficial leader of her fourth-grade class. A confident boy with a natural ability to influence his peers, Thaddeus could make or break a new student's social acceptance. Thaddeus, I'm counting on you to help Ren feel welcome, she'd said. The boy had studied the new girl from across the room with surprising intensity. There's something weird about her, Ms. P. She jumped like crazy when I dropped my book earlier. Linnea had frowned. Everyone deserves kindness, especially when we don't know their story. But as days passed, even kind-hearted Melody had reported similar observations. She never wants to play at recess, Ms. Patel. And one time I touched her shoulder, and she screamed like I hurt her, but I barely touched her. After school that first day, Linnea had sought out the school counselor, Dr. Westbrook. I'm concerned about our new student, she'd explained. Something doesn't feel right. Dr. Westbrook had reviewed Ren's transfer papers. Everything's in order. Her previous school reported no issues. Children process change differently. Give her time to adjust. But 3 weeks had passed. And instead of adjusting, Ren seemed to retreat further into herself with each passing day. The silent tears had started in the second week, always after lunch, always when she thought no one was watching. And now, standing beside Ren's empty desk with the corner of a hidden paper peeking out, Linnea felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Whatever was happening in Ren Abernathy's life, the evidence suggested it was far from okay. A memory surfaced. Ren's face when Principal Holloway entered their classroom unexpectedly yesterday. Not just the usual startled reaction, but a flash of genuine fear before her features composed themselves again. Linnea straightened, her decision made. Tomorrow she would look more closely. Tomorrow she would find a way to help this child. She couldn't have known then that the secrets hiding in plain sight would be darker and more dangerous than she ever imagined. The next morning, Linnea arrived at school earlier than usual. She had slept poorly, her dreams filled with a small figure with auburn hair running down endless hallways. She needed coffee, but more importantly, she needed a plan. She arranged her desk so she could observe Wren more easily throughout the day. When her students filed in at 8:15, Linnea watched Wren carefully hang her thin jacket on the hook beside her desk. The same jacket she'd worn every day, no matter the weather. "Good morning, Wren," Linnea said warmly. "Good morning, Ms. Patel," Wren replied, her voice barely audible. Her eyes were puffy, as if she'd been crying before school, too. During morning work, Linnea casually placed a granola bar on Wren's desk as she walked by. "Extra breakfast," she whispered with a wink. Wren looked up, surprise flickering across her face. She glanced around as if checking whether this offering might get her in trouble, then quickly slipped the bar into her desk. Linnea noted that Wren hadn't brought breakfast or lunch any day since her arrival. At snack time, Linnea noticed more troubling signs. While other children pulled out colorful lunch boxes with treats from home, Wren sat empty-handed, watching with poorly disguised hunger. "Aren't you having snack, Wren?" asked Melody, showing off her star-shaped cookies. "I'm not hungry," Wren lied, her stomach audibly growling moments later. Melody, kind-hearted as always, broke her cookie in half. "Want to share? My mom always makes too many." The gratitude in Wren's eyes as she accepted the cookie half made Linnea's chest tighten. The girl ate it slowly, savoring each small bite as if it were a feast. Later, during math, Mr. Vaughn, the school janitor, knocked on the classroom door. Wren's pencil clattered to the floor as she visibly flinched at the sound of his deep voice. Her eyes grew wide with fear until she realized who it was. Then she seemed to force herself to relax, though her hands still trembled slightly. Why would a friendly janitor frighten her so much? At recess, Linnea approached the school secretary. "Has Wren Abernathy signed up for the free lunch program?" Mrs. Diaz checked her computer. "No. Her aunt declined when I mentioned it during registration." "And her emergency contact information?" "Just the aunt and uncle. No other family listed." "What about her previous school records?" Mrs. Diaz frowned. "That's odd. Principal Holloway handled those personally. They're not in the main system." Back in the classroom, Linnea observed Wren during free writing time. While other children wrote stories about superheroes or family vacations, Wren hunched protectively over her paper, writing with intense focus. When Linnea walked by, Wren quickly covered her work with her arm. "Would you like to share what you're writing?" Linnea asked, gently. "It's nothing," Wren said, sliding the paper into her desk. "Just silly stuff." After lunch, the silent tears began again. This time, Linnea was prepared. She'd arranged a special art project that allowed her to sit beside Wren. "I notice you like to write during free time," Linnea said casually as they colored together. "I used to keep a journal when I was your age." Wren's hand paused over her drawing. "You did?" "Yes. It helped when I couldn't say things out loud." Wren's amber eyes studied Linnea's face, seeming to search for something. "Did you have secrets, Ms. Patel?" The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. "Everyone has things they find hard to talk about," Linnea answered carefully. "But sometimes keeping big worries inside only makes them scarier." Wren returned to her coloring, pressing so hard her crayon snapped. "Some secrets have to stay secret," she whispered, "or bad things happen." Before Linnea could respond, a school aide arrived with a note. Parent-teacher conferences were being rescheduled. Perfect timing. Linnea had been trying to arrange a meeting with Wren's aunt for days. After school, Linnea called the number listed for Dolores Abernathy. No answer. She sent a note home with Wren requesting a conference. The next day, the note came back with "unavailable" scrawled across it in harsh capital letters. Frustrated, Linnea sought out Dr. Westbrook again. "I think Wren Abernathy needs help," she insisted. "She's always hungry, wears the same clothes repeatedly, flinches at loud noises, and cries every day." Dr. Westbrook sighed. "Ms. Patel, I understand your concern, but you need to remember professional boundaries. Without clear evidence of abuse or neglect, we can't intervene in family matters. But give her time and space. Some children just need longer to adjust." Walking back to her classroom, Linnea felt deflated. No one seemed to share her sense of urgency about Wren. As she entered her empty classroom, something white caught her eye beneath Wren's desk. Bending down, Linnea picked up a small torn piece of paper. 3 words were written in a child's careful handwriting. "Please help me." Linnea's heart pounded as she stared at the note. This wasn't imagination or overreaction. Wren Abernathy was asking for help, and Linnea was the only one listening. Linnea's apartment was small but cozy, with plants crowding every windowsill and books stacked on nearly every surface. Tonight, though, she barely noticed the comfort of her own space as she paced the living room, the small note clutched in her hand. "You're wearing a path in the carpet," said her roommate Jade, looking up from her laptop. As a social worker for the county, Jade had seen her share of difficult cases involving children. "I don't know what to do," Linnea admitted, sinking onto the couch. She handed the torn paper to Jade. "One of my students wrote this. I've been worried about her for weeks." Jade studied the 3 desperate words. "Tell me everything." For the next half hour, Linnea detailed her observations: the silent tears, the flinching, the hunger, the isolation, the bruises, the aunt's refusal to communicate, and Principal Holloway's unusual involvement. "Have you filed a report?" Jade asked when Linnea finished. Dr. Westbrook said without clear evidence of abuse or neglect, "There's nothing to report." Jade frowned. "That's not entirely true. As mandated reporters, you're supposed to report suspicions, not prove them." "But..." She hesitated. "But what?" "The ET system isn't perfect, Lynn. I've seen cases where investigations made things worse for the child. If there's no clear evidence of physical abuse, and the family knows how to present well to authorities." "So I just do nothing?" Linnea's voice cracked. The helplessness was achingly familiar. When she was 9, not much younger than Wren, Linnea had lived with her father's unpredictable rage after her mother died. Her 4th-grade teacher, Mrs. Chen, had noticed the signs, the jumpiness, the unexplained absences, the way Linnea never invited friends over. She'd asked careful questions, but never pursued them when Linnea deflected. One terrible night, her father had broken her arm in a fit of anger. Only then did authorities intervene. Years later, Linnea had asked Mrs. Chen why she never reported her suspicions. "I wasn't certain," the teacher had admitted. "I didn't want to make things worse for you." That uncertainty had cost Linnea 3 more years of fear before help came. "I'm not doing nothing," Linnea said firmly, returning to the present. "I just need to find more concrete evidence before I report." Jade looked skeptical. "Be careful. If something serious is happening, you could be putting yourself in a difficult position. There are protocols for a reason." Linnea knew her friend was right, but the image of Wren's silent tears haunted her. Protocol hadn't helped her as a child. She couldn't let it fail Wren, too. The next day at school, Wren limped slightly as she entered the classroom. When asked, she murmured something about tripping on stairs. During gym class, she sat out, claiming a stomach ache. Linnea watched her from across the gym, noting how the girl winced when she thought no one was looking. Whatever was happening was getting worse. During lunch break, Linnea found herself outside Principal Holloway's office. She needed to understand his unusual interest in Ren. However, through the partially open door, she overheard him on the phone. "The situation is under control," he was saying in a low voice. "The girl isn't talking." "Yes, I'm keeping close watch. No need for concern about the teacher. She has no idea." Linnea froze, then quietly backed away from the door. Principal Holloway wasn't just taking a special interest in a new student, he was monitoring Ren. And apparently, monitoring Linnea too. Back in her classroom, Linnea tried to focus on grading papers while her students were at music class. What had she stumbled into? Was Principal Holloway somehow involved in whatever was happening to Ren? The school day ended with more questions than answers. As Linnea watched Ren leave with her aunt, she noticed how the woman gripped Ren's arm too tightly, how the girl seemed to shrink beside her. Driving home, Linnea made a detour past the address listed in Ren's file. It was a rundown house on Badi Saididar, the edge of town, blinds drawn tight despite the beautiful afternoon. As she slowly drove by, Linnea caught a glimpse of Ren in an upstairs window, looking out like a prisoner. That night, Linnea couldn't sleep. The image of Ren at the window, the cryptic phone conversation, the "please help me" note, all of it swirled in her mind. By morning, her decision was made. Professional boundaries or not, she needed to find out what Ren was hiding in her desk. The silent tears and the plea for help demanded action, not caution. After school, she would stay late and check Ren's desk once everyone had gone. Whatever secrets were hidden, there might be the evidence she needed to finally help this child. What Linnea didn't know was that this decision would uncover secrets far more dangerous than she imagined. Secrets that powerful people would do anything to keep buried. The final bell rang at 3 o'clock. Students rushed out like a flood breaking through a dam, eager to start their afternoon freedom. Linnea stood by her classroom door, offering high fives and reminders about tomorrow's spelling test. "Have a good evening, Ms. Patel," called Zeke, dinosaur backpack bouncing as he ran. Melody paused on her way out. "Is Ren okay?" She didn't talk at all during art. "I'm keeping an eye on her," Linnea assured the concerned girl. Ren was the last to leave as usual. Today, her aunt had sent a text message that Ren would walk home alone, the first time this had happened. Linnea watched from the window as the small figure with the too big backpack trudged slowly down the sidewalk. When the last teacher had called goodbye from down the hall, Linnea closed her classroom door and took a deep breath. The room felt different in the afternoon quiet, expectant, as if the walls themselves were watching. "This is for Ren," she whispered, moving toward the girl's desk. Guilt twisted in her stomach as she approached. Teachers weren't supposed to snoop through students' personal belongings. But that desperate plea, "Please help me," trumped normal boundaries. Linnea sat in Ren's small chair and carefully opened the desk lid. Inside was meticulous organization that seemed odd for a 10-year-old. Pencils arranged by length, folders, color-coded by subject. Completed assignments stacked neatly, each marked with perfect scores. Nothing unusual jumped out. Linnea frowned, wondering if she had misread the situation entirely. Maybe Ren was just a sad, quiet child adjusting to living with relatives. Maybe the note had been part of a story she was writing. As she prepared to close the desk, Linnea noticed something odd, a slight tear in the fabric lining the right side pocket. Looking closer, she saw it wasn't a tear, but a cleverly created opening. She gently slipped her fingers inside and felt something solid. Her heart pounding, Linnea carefully extracted a small, worn journal bound in faded blue fabric. A tiny silver lock hung broken from its clasp. Someone had forced it open before. "I shouldn't read this," Linnea whispered, running her fingers over the cover. A journal was perhaps the most private thing a child could possess, but the image of Wren's silent tears steeled her resolve. Something was wrong, and this might be her only chance to understand what. Linnea opened the journal, finding pages filled with neat handwriting. The entries were dated daily, starting 3 months ago. She began to read. April 10th. Dear Journal, Mom's lawyer said the appeal was denied again. Aunt Dolores said I shouldn't get my hopes up anyway. She says Mom did something terrible and deserves to be in prison. But I know that's not true. Mom would never hurt anyone. She was framed. I miss her so much, my chest hurts all the time. Linnea's breath caught. Prison? Wren's mother wasn't away for treatment, as the aunt had claimed. She was incarcerated. She turned pages quickly, skimming entries describing Wren's move to her aunt and uncle's house after her mother's imprisonment. April 15th. Aunt Dolores threw away the sweater Mom knitted me. She said we don't keep prison crafts in her house. I cried all night. Uncle Roger told me to toughen up, or they'd send me to foster care. April 22nd. No dinner again because I mentioned Mom at breakfast. They say I'm not allowed to talk about her. Ever. They say she's a criminal and a disgrace. They're wrong. I'm so hungry. Linnea felt sick as she read about the neglect and emotional cruelty Wren was enduring. No wonder the girl was so withdrawn. At school, the entries continued, growing increasingly desperate after Wren's transfer to Oak Ridge Elementary. May 1st, first day at new school. I almost screamed when I saw him. He's the principal here. He's Uncle Roger's friend, the one who visited our house and made Mom nervous. He pretended not to know me, but I saw him watching me. I'm scared. May 8th. Ms. Patel seems nice, but I can't tell her anything. Uncle Roger said, if I talk about Mom or say anything about our family business, they'll make sure Mom never gets out of prison. I have to be quiet and good. Tears filled Linnea's eyes as she read entry after entry of Wren's silent suffering. The girl was carrying an impossible burden for a child her age. Near the back of the journal, Linnea found something unexpected. Several letters pressed between the pages. She carefully unfolded one, recognizing a prison letterhead at the top. My dearest Wren, the lawyers say there's still hope. If only we could find what's hidden in the heating vent at our old apartment. It would prove everything. Keep being brave, my little bird. Someday, this nightmare will end, and we'll be together again. All my love, Mom. Another letter mentioned evidence that would change everything and warned Wren to be careful around Roger's police friends and especially Frank, who had helped frame her. Linnea's mind raced. Was Frank Principal Holloway? Was there actually evidence hidden somewhere that could exonerate Wren's mother? And most disturbing, were Wren's uncle, aunt, and the principal all somehow involved in sending an innocent woman to prison? The sound of a key in the classroom door made Linnea jump. She frantically tried to return the journal to its hiding place, but it was too late. The door swung open, and Principal Holloway stood in the doorway, his tall figure casting a long shadow across the classroom floor. Working late, Miss Patel? He asked, his eyes fixing on the journal in her hands. His pleasant tone couldn't mask the dangerous edge in his voice. "Just organizing some student work," Linnea replied, her mouth dry with fear. Principal Holloway stepped into the room and closed the door behind him with a soft click that somehow sounded like a trap snapping shut. "I think we need to have a conversation about boundaries, Ms. Patel, and about a certain student whose situation you don't fully understand." Linnea's hand tightened around Wren's journal as Principal Holloway closed the classroom door. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced herself to meet his gaze directly. "Frank," she said, using his first name deliberately. "That's your name, isn't it? The one mentioned in these letters?" Something flickered across his face. Surprise, perhaps, that she had read enough to make the connection. "You've crossed a line, Ms. Patel." His voice remained eerily calm. "Going through a student's personal belongings? That could cost you your teaching license." "I think we both know that's not what you're really worried about," Linnea replied, surprised by her own courage. Principal Holloway sighed and pulled up a child-sized chair, sitting down as if they were about to have a friendly chat. The sight of his large frame perched on the tiny seat might have been comical in another situation. "I'm Dolores's brother-in-law," he admitted unexpectedly. "Roger's brother. I should have disclosed that connection when Wren enrolled, but I wanted to avoid gossip." Linnea hadn't expected this confession. "So, you placed her in my class deliberately? You're our best teacher. Wren needs stability and quality education after everything she's been through." "Everything she's been through," Linnea repeated slowly. "You mean her mother being framed and sent to prison? Or the emotional abuse she's suffering with her aunt and uncle?" Principal Holloway's expression hardened. "You have no idea what you're talking about. Serena Abernathy's case was open and shut. She worked for a dangerous man, helped him steal and hide money, and got caught. The evidence was overwhelming. According to these letters, there's evidence that would prove her innocence." "Fairy tales from a desperate convict," he said dismissively. "Serena will say anything to maintain a relationship with her daughter. The truth is far uglier." "Which is?" Her boyfriend was part of a criminal network that threatened to hurt Wren if Serena didn't cooperate. Even from prison, he has reach. That's why Wren is with us. We're protecting her." Linnea tried to process this information. Could it be true? Was Wren being protected rather than mistreated? If you're protecting her, why does she come to school hungry? Why does she cry every day? Why did she write, "Please help me" on a note? Linnea challenged. Wren is difficult. She refuses to accept her mother's guilt. Dolores and Roger are doing their best with a traumatized child who fights them at every turn. He leaned forward. "The evidence Serena mentions is actually stolen money. She's trying to manipulate her 10-year-old daughter into retrieving it." The explanation sounded plausible, yet something felt off. Why would Wren be so afraid of him specifically? "I need to report my concerns to Child Protective Services," Linnea said firmly. "Let them sort out what's true." "That would be disastrous," Principal Holloway replied, his tone suddenly sharp. "The boyfriend's associates are watching. Any official investigation would alert them to Wren's location. Is that what you want? To put her in real danger because you misinterpreted a child's dramatics?" Before Linnea could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Jade. "Look up Frank Holloway plus Serena Abernathy. Case now. Call me ASAP." Principal Holloway stood, towering over her. "I'll take that journal. It's school property, since it was stored in a school desk." Linnea reluctantly handed it over, knowing she couldn't win this confrontation. "I still have concerns about Wren's well-being." "Focus on teaching, Ms. Patel. Leave Wren's welfare to her family." His smile didn't reach his eyes. I'd hate to see a promising career derailed by misguided interference. The threat hung in the air between them. The next morning, Wren's desk sat empty. When Linnea called the office, the secretary informed her that Wren was out sick. For how long? Linnea asked, anxiety crawling up her spine. Indefinitely. Family emergency. When Wren remained absent the following day, Linnea tried calling the number listed for Dolores Abernathy. Disconnected. She drove by their house during her lunch break. The driveway was empty, the windows dark. By the third day of Wren's absence, Linnea was frantic. She had spent hours researching online, finding only bare-bones news articles about Serena Abernathy's conviction for fraud and theft. Nothing about evidence or a boyfriend or criminal networks. Jade had warned her that the case details seemed unusually sealed for a simple fraud conviction. When Wren finally returned a week later, the change was heartbreaking. The girl looked even thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. She flinched at the smallest sounds and refused to speak at all, even when directly questioned. During recess, Linnea managed to get Wren alone in the classroom. "I saw your journal," she whispered, urgently. "I know about your mom. I want to help." For a moment, hope flashed in Wren's amber eyes. "You believe me? That she's innocent?" "I believe something isn't right. Tell me about the evidence in the heating vent." Wren glanced nervously at the door. "I don't know exactly what it is, just that it's small enough to hide there. Mom said it would prove she was set up." Her voice dropped even lower. "Uncle Roger and Aunt Dolores argue about it when they think I'm asleep. They know it's there but won't get it, because they're afraid of being connected to what happened." "Connected how?" "I don't know, but they get really mad whenever I mention Mom or our old apartment." Wren's eyes filled with tears. "They're moving us away next week. They say it's not safe here anymore because you were asking questions." Linnea felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. "Where are you going?" "I don't know. But once we leave, I might never see Mom again." Wren gripped Linnea's hand, her small fingers surprisingly strong. "Please, you're the only one who believes me." As footsteps approached in the hallway, Wren whispered one last thing that made Linnea's blood run cold. "Principal Holloway isn't just Uncle Roger's brother. He was the police detective who arrested my mom." The classroom door opened, and Linnea quickly moved away from Wren, pretending to straighten papers on her desk. Dr. Westbrook poked her head in. "There you are, Wren. Your aunt called. She's waiting, in the office, to take you to a doctor's appointment." Wren's face went blank, that now familiar mask sliding into place. "Yes, Dr. Westbrook." As the girl gathered her things, she gave Linnea one last desperate look. Then she was gone, shoulders hunched, following the counselor down the hall. Linnea stood frozen, mind racing. Everything was connected. Principal Holloway, the arrest, Wren's family. No wonder the principal had been so involved with Wren's enrollment. He wasn't just helping family. He was protecting himself. After school, Linnea drove straight to Jade's apartment, finding her roommate surrounded by stacks of papers. "I called in some favors," Jade explained, gesturing to the documents. "Court transcripts, police reports, everything public about the Abernathy case." Holloway was the arresting officer, Linnea said, collapsing onto the couch. Jade nodded grimly. Detective Frank Holloway led the investigation, testified at trial, left the force 6 months after the conviction, and moved into school administration. That's unusual. Very. And there's more. Jade shuffled through papers. Serena Abernathy. Maintained her innocence throughout. Claimed her boyfriend planted evidence. The boyfriend disappeared after testifying against her. Witness protection, supposedly. What about the evidence Wren mentioned? In the heating vent? Nothing about that in the records. But get this, Serena's appeal was denied 3 months. Ago, new hearing scheduled for next month. Could explain why everyone's suddenly moving Wren away. Linnea rubbed her temples. I'm a mandated reporter. I need to call CPS. With what evidence? Tearfulness? Being withdrawn? The aunt and uncle will say she's traumatized by her mother's imprisonment. And if Holloway was a detective, he's got friends in the system. The case could get buried. So I do nothing? The familiar helplessness returned. Jade took her hand. Not nothing. We just need to be smart. Strategic. That night, they formulated a plan. Jade would use her social worker connections to access more information about Serena's case. Meanwhile, Linnea would create a special classroom project, personal narratives about family challenges, that might give Wren a safe way to express her feelings in writing. And the heating vent evidence? Linnea asked. If we can find the old apartment address, maybe we can investigate, Jade suggested. My brother Nikhil could help. He's good with people, could talk to the current residents. The next day, Linnea introduced the writing project. Everyone has challenges, she told her class. Writing about them can help us understand our feelings. She watched carefully as Wren bent over her paper, writing furiously. When Linnea collected the compositions, Wren's was 6 pages long, her first voluntary participation in class. Later, that night, Linnea read Wren's story, tears streaming down her face. Though written as fiction about a girl named Robin, the narrative clearly described Wren's experiences. Her mother's sudden arrest, the evidence that could free her, the fear of her uncle's anger, and worst of all, the nightmares about the policeman with the silver eagle pin who had taken her mother away. Principal Holloway wore that exact pin on his suit lapel every day. Over the next few days, Linnea noticed subtle changes in Wren. The girl began participating more in class. She even joined Zeke and Melody at recess, tentatively entering their dinosaur card game. The daily tears stopped. Having someone believe her seemed to have restored some of her spirit. Jade's investigation revealed that Serena Abernathy had worked as a bookkeeper for a construction company owned by her boyfriend, Marcus Drake. She had allegedly helped him embezzle funds from clients, though she claimed he'd framed her when she discovered his illegal activities. The evidence was mainly digital, Jade explained, financial records supposedly showing transfers Serena made. But if she had evidence proving Drake doctored those records, it would explain why they're so desperate to keep it hidden. Linnea. Finished. Through property records, they identified Serena's former apartment. Jade's brother Nikhil agreed to visit over the weekend, posing as a maintenance worker if necessary. Friday afternoon, just as hope was building, disaster struck. Dolores Abernathy arrived unexpectedly during math class. I'm withdrawing Wren, she announced coldly. Family emergency, we're moving today. Linnea's stomach dropped. Today? But what about her records are already processed? Dolores interrupted. Principal Holloway handled everything. Wren stood by her aunt, eyes downcast, already wearing her backpack. As Dolores signed forms at Linnea's desk, Wren silently slipped a folded paper into her teacher's hand. Get your things, Dolores snapped. We're late. Minutes later, they were gone. Linnea unfolded Wren's note in trembling hands. Our old apartment, 742 Willow Street, Apt 3B, heating vent in Mom's bedroom, left wall. Please hurry. They're taking me far away. Thank you for believing me. That evening, Linnea stared at the address. The neighborhood was in a rough part of town, known for drug activity and occasional violence. Going there would be risky, especially after dark. But when she thought of Wren's silent tears, her desperate plea for help, she knew she had no choice. "I'll go tonight," she told Jade. "I can't wait for the weekend." "Not alone," Jade insisted. "That's crazy." "Then come with me, or I'll ask your brother to go tonight, but I'm not waiting." Linnea grabbed her keys. Every day that passes is another day Wren suffers, and her mother sits in prison wrongfully. As she drove toward the dangerous neighborhood, Linnea knew she was crossing professional boundaries, perhaps even legal ones. But sometimes she reminded herself the right thing wasn't the safe thing. Wren's future was worth the risk. "You should have waited for me," Nikhil grumbled from the passenger seat. Jade had called her brother in a panic after Linnea's announcement, and he'd insisted on joining them. "Sorry for the last-minute adventure," Linnea said, gripping the steering wheel tightly as they turned onto Willow Street. The neighborhood was even more forbidding at night. Broken street lights, abandoned buildings with boarded windows, and small groups of people huddled in shadows. "At least we have a social worker and a former security guard along," Jade said from the back seat, trying to sound confident. Apartment building 742 was a faded brick structure with crumbling steps and graffiti-tagged walls. Nikhil went first, his broad shoulders and confident stride creating a path through the dimly lit lobby. The elevator was broken, so they climbed 3 flights of stairs littered with fast food wrappers and cigarette butts. Outside 3B, Linnea took a deep breath before knocking. A young woman with a baby on her hip opened the door, eyeing them suspiciously through the chain lock. "Yeah? I'm so sorry to bother you," Linnea began. "This is awkward, but I'm a teacher trying to help a student in trouble. She used to live here with her mom." The woman's expression softened slightly. "The little girl with red hair? She came by with her aunt a few weeks ago asking to look around. The aunt wouldn't let her." Hope surged through Linnea. "Yes, that's Wren. What do you want?" Nikhil stepped forward with his most charming smile. "There's something important hidden in one of the heating vents. Something that could help her mom. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't crucial." The woman hesitated, then sighed. "My baby finally fell asleep, so be quiet." 5 minutes. Inside, the apartment was small but clean, with mismatched furniture and toys scattered across the floor. "Bedroom's back there," the woman whispered, pointing. "Don't wake Jaden." The bedroom was barely big enough for a double bed and dresser. Jade kept watch at the door while Linnea and Nikhil examined the heating vent on the left wall. "It's been opened recently," Nikhil whispered, pointing to fresh scratch marks around the vent cover. "Someone beat us here." Linnea's heart sank as Nikhil carefully removed the cover. He shined his phone flashlight into the dark space, then reached in gingerly. "There's something," he murmured, fingers stretching, "stuck in the back." After several tense seconds, he extracted a plastic bag sealed with duct tape. Inside were 2 items, a USB drive and a delicate silver necklace with a pendant, partially stained with what looked disturbingly like dried blood. "Let's go," Jade hissed from the doorway. They thanked the tenant and hurried back to Linnea's car, hearts pounding. Once safely blocks away, they examined their find more carefully. The necklace could be evidence from a crime scene, Jade said. "We need to view that USB drive immediately." Back at their apartment, they plugged the drive into Jade's laptop. It contained dozens of files, financial spreadsheets, emails, and most importantly, video recordings. "These are security camera videos from the construction company," Jade realized, as they watched. "Look at the date stamps, right around when the embezzlement supposedly happened." The grainy footage showed an office after hours. A man they recognized from news photos as Marcus Drake entered using a key card with Serena Abernathy clearly visible. He sat at a computer, worked for nearly an hour, then left. He used her access card to frame her, Linnea whispered. Another video showed Drake meeting someone in the parking lot, someone who accepted an envelope and whose face became clear as he turned toward the camera. "That's Holloway," Nikhil said. "Younger, but definitely him." "A corrupt cop," Jade breathed, "working with Drake to frame Serena." The necklace made sense now, too. Likely evidence from another crime that Drake had used to control Holloway, ensuring his cooperation. "We need to take this to the authorities," Linnea said. "But not local police. Holloway might still have connections." Jade made a call to a detective she trusted from her social work cases. Within hours, things moved with stunning speed. The state police took their evidence seriously, launching an immediate investigation. Drake, who had never actually entered witness protection, was tracked down in Florida and arrested. Principal Holloway was brought in for questioning. 3 days later, Serena Abernathy's case was officially reopened. Her lawyer, armed with the new evidence, secured her temporary release pending a new hearing. But Linnea still hadn't found Wren. The Abernathy house remained empty, with neighbors reporting they'd left hurriedly in a rented moving truck. No forwarding address had been filed with the post office or school district. Early Monday morning, Linnea arrived at her empty classroom to find a note on her desk. "Ms. Patel, I know what you did. They're taking me somewhere today. Don't try to. Find us." "Wren frantic," Linnea called Jade, who arrived with her detective contact within the hour. They raced to the Abernathy house for one final search. The property was still vacant, but this time they checked everywhere, including the padlocked cellar doors Linnea had overlooked before. As they approached, they heard a faint tapping sound from inside. "Stand back," the detective ordered, before breaking the rusted lock with a crowbar. The smell hit them first, musty, damp, and oppressive. As flashlight beams cut through the darkness, Linnea gasped. A woman sat chained to a support beam, her auburn hair matted, face gaunt, but eyes burning with the same amber intensity as Wren's. "Serena?" Linnea whispered. The woman nodded weakly. "They took Wren. When I was released on bail, Roger and Holloway panicked. They kidnapped me to use as leverage against Wren, to keep her quiet." As paramedics treated Serena and police issued an Amber Alert for Wren, the final pieces fell into place. Principal Holloway had been the mastermind all along. Years ago, he'd helped Drake frame Serena in exchange for money and silence about evidence linking him to another crime. When Serena's case was reopened, they'd kidnapped her to control Wren. Hours later, police intercepted Roger, Dolores, and Wren at a bus station 2 states away. Wren was safe, frighteningly thin and traumatized, but alive. In the hospital waiting room, Linnea finally learned the truth that had driven Wren to those silent daily tears. She recognized Principal Holloway the moment she saw him. Serena explained weakly from her hospital bed, Wren asleep beside her. "He'd been to our house, threatened us before my arrest. Every day at school was torture for her, facing the man who destroyed our lives while being forced to stay silent." Linnea thought of those quiet tears falling on math worksheets, the desperate note asking for help, the courage of a 10-year-old girl standing up to powerful adults. As Wren stirred in her sleep, Linnea gently tucked the blanket around her shoulders. The tears and secrets were over. Justice, so long delayed, had finally arrived, and it had all begun because a teacher noticed a little girl crying. That was the end of this story. Where are you listening from? If you enjoyed this emotional journey, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more such interesting videos. Don't forget to share with your friends and family to spread kindness and awareness about the importance of paying attention to children's silent struggles.